All right.
Hello and welcome to Taking the Leap. I am Caryn Saitz and I am here today with my special guest, Paige Arnof-Fenn, and this is Taking the Leap. And I'm your host. I'm also the CEO and founder of MastermindEX, and I'm really excited to have Paige Arnof-Fenn who is the CEO and founder of Mavens and Moguls here today. So welcome, Paige. It's so great to see you. Thank you for
Great to
doing
see
this.
you, Karen. Thank you so much for having me.
So I've known Paige. I always kind of start out, and I've known Paige for I think it's more than 20 years. And neither one of us, we were having this conversation. Neither one of us is exactly sure at what event, and it was definitely at some, early technology event in Boston that I mean, I used to I ran so many of them, and B, I participated in so many early on, and I think we're both early adopters when it comes to that. And we were just part of that, cool tech event scene and women's event scene in Boston for a lot of years. And I literally I produced so many and went to so many. I'm not honestly sure which one I met you at, but it was great meeting you. We became friends, and here we are 20 years later and still friends, and it doesn't get better than that. So
Exactly. No, it's amazing. I think you and I are both pretty active on the networking scene in Boston. And I think once we met, we ran into each other multiple
everywhere.
times a week
Exactly, everywhere, and it was
back in the day.
exactly, and it is really different now. It's true.
Totally.
A, we're a little older. B, we've kind of done a lot of those events. And C, our interests have changed and the kinds of things that we're doing have changed. So actually, that's why you're here today, because I really want you to talk a little bit about taking the leap. And I have to say that taking the leap are conversations with women who are 40 and older who have really built their dream business, and also they've changed their life and they've changed the lives of so many. And what's really special about Paige is Paige did it kind of like before most people thought about doing this. And she's really a pioneer in terms of building a business model and building a business that fit your lifestyle and also the lifestyle of so many, well before its time. It's one thing today, but it's another thing when you actually started building that business. So I'm going to have you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you started, and then, where you are today, and how does that fit into this world today that we're in? And then we can talk a little bit about the transitions and, what are the challenges with change? So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you started, and how you did all of that.
So I kind of look at my career in three distinct chapters. I started on a much more traditional corporate path. I got an MBA. I worked on Wall Street in the 80s. I worked at Procter and Gamble and Coca-Cola, very traditional Fortune 500 packaged goods companies,
Mm-hmm.
consumer products, and I worked in marketing. So that was kind of my corporate chapter. And I'm amazed now when I look back that I was as successful as I was in the corporate world, because now I think of myself as being so entrepreneurial.
Mm,
And I think now, upon reflection, I can see why I used to get so frustrated in a corporate environment. If you talk to any of my bosses, they would probably tell you she worked really hard. She was a really smart, hard worker, but she was always trying to bend, break, or change the rules.
mm-hmm.
Like P&G and Coke are very successful companies. Their brands have been around for decades, if not
Mm-hmm.
a century or more. And I would always come into my boss's office and say, what about this? Or have you thought about that? Or what if we change this? And they're like, Paige, we don't need to break it. It's fixed. It's working. Just
Right.
go do your job.
Right. And
So
entrepreneurship sort of wasn't a big buzzword then because I got
I
an
don't even think I
MBA at the
used
same
that
time.
word.
Well, I did because my dad was an entrepreneur, um but I didn't think about taking an entrepreneurship course. It
Right.
wasn't really offered when I got my MBA. And it certainly wasn't a track. It wasn't like
Right.
Babson is today or Harvard is today where you can go down this entrepreneurial track. So we kind of
Right.
had to get that input somewhere else.
Totally. When I was in business school, I wanted to be Meg Whitman. I wanted to be a Fortune 500 CEO,
Right.
run a big business, global brand, motivating and managing thousands, if not tens of thousands of people around the world. That was the path I thought I was on. But then the internet happened. And in the 90s, I can honestly say I got bitten by the dot-com bug when it was Internet 1.0 in the kind of mid to late 90s. I left my big, cushy corporate job at Coke, and I joined my first startup in 1997. And, back in that time, it was, I don't know what pulled me. I took one computer science class in college in the 80s, but I was just mesmerized. I was so excited and interested. And I joined an earlystage.com venture-backed company in Los Angeles. And I quit my job at Coke on a Friday and started at my new job on a Monday
Wow.
as the head of marketing. And we had a wild ride. We raised about $40 million when it was really easy to raise money.
Mm.
Pretty much all of it went into marketing. We went public in 1999 and we were sold to Yahoo. And it was just like, fasten your seatbelts. It was so fun and it was great. And I built the marketing department from the ground floor and we just had a ball and we were successful. So then my husband got a job in Boston and all my options accelerated at the IPO. I was listed in the prospectus, so I did pretty well.
Hmm.
And then, so my husband wanted to take this job in Boston, so we moved. And there was another startup that needed marketing help, and it was in the business to business space. And I had always been in the consumer space.
Hmm.
I really was more of a CPG person, but this looked so fun. And so I interviewed and they made me an offer and I did it again. And when about a year and a half later, we were sold, it was a media company, and we were sold to Bertelsmann, which is the largest privately held media company in the world,
Wow.
which in a way, people think going public was like amazing. It was really interesting, but I made much more money on the second deal because when you get bought by a private company, they just write you a check. You don't have options that are locked up. There's no period where
Uh-huh.
you can't sell your shares. You just get a check and you're done.
That was a good move and a short turnaround.
Exactly. And then another startup was looking for the head of marketing. So then I did it again. And sure enough, not even 2 years later, we went public and we were sold. So I joke that those are like my three base hits. I made a little money 3 times. I'm not Sheryl Sandberg. I didn't make $2 billion,
Right, right.
but I had a great time. I learned so much. And, I worked with some great investors and VCs on both coasts. But right after the third startup closed, 9/11 hit right around that period. And that was a really weird time in the world and the economy. If
Hmm.
everyone can remember, marketing pretty much got frozen at that point. Everybody was paralyzed. They were nervous about spending cash. They didn't know about the financial markets. So everybody shut down their marketing.
Hmm.
And I had all these great contacts through my corporate days, through my startup days on both coasts. And I had a lot of VCs who were very happy because they had great exits.
Right.
And I just lost my job. And people started coming out of the woodwork saying, Paige, we need help. We don't have a marketing department. Can you help me? And I
Hmm.
was thinking, I'm not really a consultant. I'm the client. I'm the chief marketing officer. And they kept saying, but you've done this job. And my husband's like, Paige, read the red flashing sign in front of you.
Yeah.
You can help these people. You know what to do. You've done this for a while. So I started calling all my favorite marketing people, the people I'd worked with earlier in my career. And guess what? They had all been laid off too, because like I said, 9/11 kind of zeroed out the marketing budgets. So I had people and I had projects and I just started putting them together. And I called the women the marketing mavens and the guys the marketing moguls. And we started forming teams to help clients solve their marketing challenges. And that was literally 20 years ago. And here we are still doing it, which is really incredible because all those jobs I told you about, my
Hmm.
longest job before this was 3.5 years. And
Wow.
now I've worked for myself for 20 years. So go figure.
So, was that really how you came up with the name Mavens and Moguls?
I mean, I was jokingly referring to the women as the marketing mavens and the guys as the marketing moguls. So when I would email the original group, I'd say, hey, mavens and moguls, blah, blah, blah. But then once we realized we were going to start helping people,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we better build a website. We better get a name and a logo and business cards. Like, I'm a corporate person at
Right, right,
heart.
right. And
I,
also people were traditional then,
right. And what are we going to put our proposals on? We need letterhead. We need an invoice so I can get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So with my team, we came up with like literally 100 names. And a lot of them were very serious. Integrated marketing solutions,
Mm-hmm.
strategic marketing advisors, like
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 like boring, boring, boring. And I threw on the list Mavens and Moguls because I was like my joke
That's what
name.
you were doing, right?
Yeah. And then we did, I'm a corporate person at P&G. You have to do market research for everything. So I thought we better do a little market research. So we just did it over the internet. This is like a scrappy entrepreneurial thing. So we
Uh-huh.
send out the list of names to a bunch of people that we knew from the marketing world, advertisers, people that might refer us, lawyers or other service providers. We may have sent it to you, Caryn. I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
Anyway, we sent the list and said, we're trying to find a name for a new consulting business. I'm assembling a group of these marketing stars, and we want a name that's memorable and that'll be taken seriously and that kind of gets to our personality. There are a bunch of names here. Please pick your favorites and tell us why. So
Mm-hmm.
we did the email blast, and it comes back. And interestingly, Mavens and Moguls was like one of the top names on the majority of the responses. And I thought that's so funny because it never dawned on me that would be a
Right.
winning
It
name.
wasn't your real, like, it was just kind of there.
Yeah. And there were 3 people that responded that basically either didn't have Mavens and Moguls on the list, or one of them in particular said, all the names are fine, but whatever you do, don't pick Mavens and Moguls. Like, it's such a silly name.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, so I was culling the list down to the top ones. And the guy who had originally told me like 3 or 4 days before he had hated the name Mavens and Moguls just happened to call me that afternoon. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, I have something to admit to you. And I said, what? And he said, okay, you included me in this little market research thing. And I voted, and I told you there was one name I couldn't stand, but all the other ones were fine. The only name I can even remember on the list is the name that I didn't like. And I don't even remember what I put as my first choice, but now this other name is kind of growing on me. And that was like a big sign to me. Like,
Right.
again,
It was
I
this
didn't want to
aha moment, right?
I didn't want us to turn into wallpaper. And I didn't want to be confused with some boring, you
Right.
know,
Right.
corporate consulting firm. And I didn't want my name in the company name. I wanted it to be about the team, the
Mm-hmm.
group, the strength of the brain trust. And so we just did it. We picked Mavens and Moguls. Mavens is a Yiddish word for expert, or my great grandmother would say
Mm-hmm.
know it all.
Right.
And mogul is someone of rank, power, or distinction in a specified area. And I
Mm-hmm.
love the alliteration. And a friend of mine created a logo, which we still use. And here we are. So, I mean, I feel like, we're a branding and marketing company. So if we don't have a good name,
Right. Right.
I don't think people would think we were really
Like,
good.
why are we hiring them? They're not so creative, right? That's so
But
funny.
what I love about the name is it's a conversation starter. People say, oh my God, I love the
Totally.
name, or how did you come up with the name? Or
Right.
I
And you don't forget it. I mean, like it's just you remember it, which is really what you want in a name at the end of the day, right?
absolutely. And the funniest thing is, so, in the summers, they have a lot of outdoor kind of like festivals and activities.
Uh-huh.
So there's one of these farm stands that does like a big festival around like corn and tomatoes in the summer,
Uh-huh.
out in the burbs. So I was there with a bunch of friends of mine, and we were like walking around and eating all the things and buying all the kind of yummy things from their garden.
Uh-huh.
And I hear someone screaming like across the lawn, Maven lady, Maven, Maven. And I'm looking, and this woman's like, trying to flag me
Yeah.
down. And I'm like, oh my God. And I saw her and I said, hi, how are you? What's going on? She's like, oh my God, I completely blanked on your name. All I could think of was Mavens, Mavens, Mavens. And she's like one of the top women venture capitalists in Boston. So I ended up talking to her at this festival. She happened to be there with friends as well.
Uh-huh.
The Monday, this was over a weekend. On Monday, I emailed her and said how fun it was to bump into her. She called me and she's like, okay, I have 3 portfolio companies that could really use your help. Like seeing me and it like remembering Mavens. And then it was top of mind. When she got back to work, we got business.
Right.
So I love that, and if I have a hyphenated last name, and Mavens and Moguls, it's 2 words. But people tell me all the time, if they Google Paige and Mavens, I come up right away.
Right.
Like I'm easy to find. With a name like mine, it's really me. It's not like Jane Smith or
Right.
Susan Jones. Like if you think it's me, it's me.
But and when you started it, first of all, were all of your experts women?
No, like I said, I thought of the women as the Mavens and the guys as the Moguls.
Right, but were so the moguls weren't the clients.
No,
The
no,
moguls were they were also experts, but they were from a different perspective.
exactly.
Got it. But it was always sort of a distributed workforce that was
Always.
going to be virtual in a world that didn't know what virtual meant at that
No,
point in time.
no, it's funny. I mean, my vision from the get-go was, yeah. So, I worked for these global companies. I had lived in so many different cities in my life and career. And I had contacts when you work at Coke and P&G and, on these global brands. I knew people literally in major metro areas everywhere.
Hmm.
So the first 10 people that I assembled, I had people in multiple cities around the US. I had people in major metro markets abroad. So we were doing the distributed virtual model way before COVID or, I
And
mean,
how? Just on the phone? I mean, literally, like,
it's funny. We did everything on cell phones, on email. I mean, it is funny to think about now because there was no Zoom, there was no Skype. And it's, Harvard Business School ended up writing 2 cases about Mavens and Moguls, like maybe the 3rd year of our business.
uh-huh,
And I mean,
to
back then,
showcase the model. I mean, to show the
so we
business
were
model.
considered kind of an innovative business model, a new path to success. And you have to remember, this was before the sharing economy. This was before people kind of, shared houses and boats and exercise equipment. I think with professional services, companies were very comfortable outsourcing legal, bookkeeping, accounting.
Hmm.
Nobody really outsourced their marketing back then. You hired an ad agency, you might have hired a PR firm,
Hmm.
but the thought that your marketing department might be a virtual team really didn't exist. And so we were kind of a pioneer in this space. And now it's funny because I've seen presentations of people who call themselves the Mavens and Moguls of their industry. And I'm always very proud. I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Although, did you copyright the name?
I have a service mark on it.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. And so your motto was way before the time. It was difficult at that point in time to, to really more difficult to communicate than obviously it is today. It wasn't, I'm trying to think, it was sort of the women who wanted to work at home kind of movement. Moms, I would think, or people that had families and they were
But
looking
I
for
had a
another
lot of
way.
dads and single dads. And,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think the men appreciate the model and the flexibility as much as the women in the group, to be honest.
And you think And so here's this model that today is like, oh wow, look, we can work from home. And and how do you do this? And how do you motivate the people? And there's all these questions around, is it successful? And do you have to be, monitoring these people and all these things? Well, you've been doing it for 20 plus
20
years
years.
successfully, right? Successfully. What would you say to all of those, CEOs today that are thinking, does this work? Should we try to do it kind of thing?
So you need the right people. And I don't think this model works for everybody, but there are people that can really thrive in an environment where they've got the tools, they've got the energy, and they've got the platform to just go. And they're not held back by or constrained by needing to commute or go to an office or be
Hmm.
at a staff meeting on, at a certain time. So I think,
Did you
we've
feel like their
certainly,
boss? I mean, did you feel like you had to sort of be their boss on a daily basis, or did you feel like they're all really successful people that were already at a high level and all could be a boss? And so it
right.
took
So
less.
that's a great question. So unlike a traditional agency or consulting model, this has always been a very flat organization. All of the Mavens and Moguls, and so I'm the founder and CEO, but all the original people, they're all principals in the company. So they basically are seasoned people. They've had great careers in their
Hmm.
own right. And so I'm not managing them per se. I'm not telling them how to write a press release or how to do their job. My market research people know more about market research than I do. My PR people are the ones that have the Rolodex to dial and smile and pitch for PR. I always joke, I'm like the conductor of a world-class orchestra. I don't play all the instruments well, but I'm really good at getting them to play well together.
Hmm.
So my role is really I'm the kind of chief salesperson. I'm filling the pipeline. I'm out there speaking and kind of engaging and bringing as much attention and business as I can into the Mavens
Hmm.
network. And then they do the work that's on the critical path. And then I do the administration on the back end. I'm doing the contracts, I'm doing the payroll, the accounting, the
Hmm.
tax stuff. So I'm the front end and the back end, and they're the kind of engine in the middle. So, it's kind of a divide and conquer strategy.
Hmm.
I see myself as connecting the dots and then getting out of the way. But I'm not managing them in the sense of like, they need their hands held or they need to be told what to do. I joke that like everyone in the group's a little bit type A neurotic. So even though when we're putting together proposals for our clients and people say, oh, I'm going to spend this much time or I'm going to do this, like none of us can help ourselves. We probably all give like at least 15, 20% more time, more
Hmm.
energy than we budgeted for. But that's why the clients feel like they're getting such great value
Right.
because it's really us doing the work. It's not like a 23-year-old that's learning how to write a press release.
Right. Right.
It's the people that have managed PR for years. So they know how to do it. They're very efficient. They're very good.
Hmm.
When I was coming up through the ranks on my corporate life, I was always having to correct things and send them back and whatever. It's not that kind of business. Like you're dealing with the principal level people who can
Hmm.
hit the ground running. And because all of us came out of kind of business, we were on the other side of the desk in a previous life. Our heads and our hearts are much more aligned with our clients than
Hmm.
a traditional agency. Like I'm not trying to cross sell and upsell and make you dependent on me. I want to fix your problem and then move on to the next problem. Like
Right.
I think I'm spending my clients' money the way I spent it when I was the client. I don't
But
want to
in
be,
today's environment, are you replacing their department or are you enhancing a lot of the departments as
so
opposed to
it
replacing
depends.
it?
It depends. So sometimes we have clients who maybe the head of marketing needs to get their hip replaced or going out on maternity leave.
Hmm.
If they're going to be gone and they need someone to backfill that job, we can come in and keep the trains moving. Also, maybe they just need somebody with a different skill set. They have a team, but they've got a new problem or a new project that requires different skills. So we come in and kind of support an existing crew. Sometimes they've got very junior people who are very tactical, but they don't have kind of that seasoned strategic resource who can help set the strategy, be the voice of the customer, and kind of do all of that at the macro level and manage the underlings. So we can kind of do whatever needs to get done, which is, it's a very flexible model. And the goal though is, again, we don't want to turn into a one-trick pony. I don't want to keep doing the same work over and over and over. I want to teach you to fish so that you can start catching them so that I can go do something else next time. That's what's fun for us to do.
And it's probably great for the client. I mean,
I think so.
I mean, I would think that would be a great opportunity for the client and for their teams, and also to help grow their own teams. I think that's a great way to do it. So you made this transition because it was a moment in time where, in essence, kind of there was this need. I mean, you were all for, you lost your job, so it was this, sort of confluence of factors, right? You had been in, you'd been in corporate, everybody was sort of out of their job. There was this need because there was this gap and this opening and you just sort of filled it. Did you honestly think that 20 plus years later that A, is it your dream? And B, did you ever think that, wow, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life? And C, is there something else now at this point after 20 years that you want to do?
So those are all great questions. I had no idea I'd be doing this for the biggest chunk of my career. I never wrote a business plan. Like literally, I had clients before I even admitted I was starting a company. But then once we hung out the shingle and, built the website, the first website, so a college buddy of mine wanted to learn how to program. So she said to me, why don't I practice? I'll build your website if you can write the copy. I'm like, okay. So she made this very simple, like brochureware 1.0 website, just so we could say we were official. Like if you have a website, you're
And it
real.
was then,
Right. That website lasted for 5 years. And, I just laugh because, I guess, again, back to my entrepreneurial instincts, we threw it up there and we said we were open for business and people said, great, you're hired. Send me an invoice. If I had realized that website was going to be up for 5 years, I think I would have been paralyzed. I would have been frozen. I don't think I would have been able to pull the trigger and make it go live.
Right.
Now I think it's 3.0 and it's not great at all by any means, but you pivot, you morph, you tweak, and that's kind of part of the entrepreneurial journey.
Right. And you have a client base now. So it's not, and you have referrals and you have word of mouth. So it's
Exactly.
not like they're going to your website and saying, oh, I wonder if these people are good.
Right.
It's
Are
kind
they
of like,
real?
are they
Right.
real? How long have they been in business? I mean, they're not judging you based on that website at this point.
Right.
I'm
Yeah. Thank
assuming
God
that,
for that.
I'm assuming most of your work comes through word of mouth and clients
Yeah. Oh, it's
and
all
people you know.
referral, word of mouth.
Right, right.
It's referral, and I do a lot of writing and speaking. So people, hear about us and then go and see that we're real and then check us out on, LinkedIn or whatever. And you kind of start that conversation.
But for you, so okay, you didn't think it was going to go so long. And A, is it your dream business? And B, is there something else down the road that you would like to do and try?
So I've made it my dream business. I mean, people say to me, oh, I can't believe you started this great company. I mean, it is a company, but for me, Mavens and Moguls is more of a platform to do work I enjoy doing. I like writing, I like speaking, I like serving on boards, I like mentoring. I like volunteering. There are a lot of things I like doing, and all of it kind of comes back to the Mavens platform for me. So for me, as a founder, CEO, entrepreneur, Mavens provides me the nest, like that's kind of, even though it's not my name, it's a company name. I'm
And you
very close,
started it. You are the founder.
and I'm very closely associated with it,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
So I have made Mavens and Moguls my dream job. I don't think when I started it, I just thought I was kind of passing the time until things went back to normal.
Right.
And then, we had the great recession. Then we've had COVID and the great resignation. I mean, it's funny as the world keeps changing and topsy-turvy. You and I were saying this before. In a weird way, the company is more relevant and important today
100%.
than it was when I started it 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
100%. I mean, it's kind of, it is the future right now, and it's the present. It's the present, it's the future. It's how people seemingly want to work, at least for now, and seemingly have had to work, over the last few years.
And
So,
I'm in my mid 50s. I don't want to retire in a traditional sense. I love the work I'm doing.
mhm,
I love the fact that I can work when and how hard I want. And I can take on clients that I want to work with and I want to help. I don't feel like I have to work. I feel like I enjoy working. So I see doing this for decades to come. I
that's
don't
great.
know what the future of Mavens is going to look like, but it will continue to serve as a platform for me to do interesting work that I believe in, that's
Mhm.
important to me, and helping people that I want to see and help be successful.
That's great. And so, if there were a couple of things that you would have told somebody, or you would tell somebody today that you wish you had known before you went on this journey and started this, what would have made it easier, or what would have helped you, that in an area that was challenging?
So I think everyone kind of goes into these things worrying about, like, what if I fail, or what if it's not perfect? The website's not perfect. Am I ready to launch? Don't worry about failing. Like, you're going to make mistakes. There are going to be bumps in the road.
Hmm.
Just do it, learn, and keep moving forward. So you are going to course correct, you are going to pivot, you're going to learn a lot with every twist and turn. Don't be scared to fail. In a way, you need to almost be more scared that you're going to succeed than
Hmm.
fail, because I think when you're super successful, that's when it gets scary. Like, I didn't really worry about failing. It never dawned on me we'd fail.
Right.
But we are much more successful than I ever thought we would be, and that is a little scary.
Right. And
Um,
what did failure really look like? I mean, maybe it was a client that wasn't happy, or I don't know. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you learn. We had to fire a client in the first year of my business. It was a 5-figure a month retainer.
Hmm.
They signed a year-long engagement, so it was a 6-figure contract. And the guy was an absolute jerk. He was mean and ungrateful, and it was very challenging for the team to work with him.
Hmm.
And I just realized, it's my business. And if I'm going to continue to attract these kind of clients, this is not the kind of life I want to build. This is not the kind of business.
Hmm.
I don't want to help people like this be successful. And the more successful we were being for him, the worse he was behaving. And after 3 months, I basically showed up at the meeting with the entire team at the table. And I said, I think we need to shake hands and part ways. And he said, are you firing me as a client? I said, I think I am. Yeah, I think this isn't really working.
Hmm.
And it was
Was he
such a,
shocked? He must have
he
been
was
shocked.
shocked. And I will tell you, it was one of the most important lessons and moments in our early history, because the team saw that I was supporting them. Like, I had to hear all the bad stuff this guy was saying
Right.
and doing, and I had their back. And we were over servicing him to death, and he really didn't appreciate it. We were getting tons of results. And I mentioned at the meeting before this kind of break, I said, do you want to maybe start my team? They've done such great work. He said, thank you. Why would I thank you? I'm paying you. And I thought, Oh
Oh,
God, this
yeah,
is
that's not a good client.
awful,
Right,
awful.
right,
And, it sent a signal to the team, but it also sent a signal to me that the buck stops here. Like, if you don't want to
right,
work with clients like this, you don't have to. It's up to you.
right.
And we replaced that income within 2 months. We were making more income from people who were awesome
Right, right.
clients. And it helped me make better choices to work with people that were a better fit with
Hmm.
us culturally and the chemistry. And I want to love what I do every day. I don't want it to be a drag. I don't want people to feel
Hmm.
depressed coming to work. I want them to be energized and excited
Hmm.
with every project. And in the same way, you want to have great clients, you want to have great colleagues. And another tough lesson, again, early on, the people you start with are not the people that necessarily grow with you. And
Hmm.
like I said, we were growing really fast. Year 1 to year 2, we quadrupled, then we tripled,
Wow.
then we doubled. I mean, again, it was the base was getting bigger, but some people were not comfortable with that level of growth and couldn't scale with the
Hmm.
business. And so in the first few years, there were people that, again, we needed to shake hands and part ways, because if the chemistry and the culture is off,
Right,
if people are feeling threatened, if they're not bringing out the best in their teammates, you need to cut your losses and move on.
right.
And I hated, my nature, I want to like see the best in
Hmm.
everyone,
Hmm.
and I want to believe the best in everyone. And I am a very kind of generous, loyal person
Hmm.
in nature. But I think when when you're getting signals and feedback that you've got someone in the group that's not working, you need to pay attention and you have to be strong.
Yeah,
So, I mean, again, it's growing pains, but the good news is we were growing. The idea was working. The,
right.
the concept caught on and we were doing great work. So I think for people out there, don't be scared. Be very clear on what your values are and stick to your values,
Hmm.
and build a business you can be proud of, working with and for people you want to be successful and that you feel great getting out of bed every morning.
I
Because
love
then
that.
yeah, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle, it's a
Right,
platform to do stuff that's meaningful to you. Like, I want to make a difference in the world. I
right.
want to work with people. I want clients who are really changing the world in great ways and helping their customers lead better lives. So if you're very clear on that, then stick to your moral compass and you'll be fine.
I think that is such an important lesson and such an important insight into success and into what, you're doing this 20 years. That's a lot of mornings that you wake up that you are doing it. And, it's a big portion of your life and it's a big portion of every day. And not only your life, but all the other people that work with you. Out of curiosity, did it end up that a lot of the people were more entrepreneurial in nature that worked with you, or they still feel like they're working for a company and this is their role? I'm
So I
curious.
think I think they like the flexibility and the autonomy and the fact that we are mutually respectful, and that they bring a very important skill set to the team. And I think we're very well matched to divide and conquer. If I can keep the pipeline full and do all the administrative paperwork and payroll and all the
Hmm.
kind of stuff
Business
that,
aspect, operations.
yeah, then they get to do what they do best. And that's all they have to focus on, is just being a great branding person, just
Hmm.
doing great design work, just doing awesome research, pitching, whatever they love doing. So everybody's
Hmm.
doing what they do best. And so they feel like they can flourish, that they get up every day and get to
Hmm.
focus on the stuff that gives them the most joy, that they are the most successful in. So if they're only going to work a few hours a day, they can do it and feel like, wow, I did something really meaningful today.
And there's a structure. I mean, there's some So they don't have to do the stuff that they're not good at and they don't like. There's enough of a business structure around them without necessarily being this corporate kind of environment that they have to work in.
Right. And when I was in corporate America, you'd have these development plans and they'd send you to training and they wanted you to like cross train. And, that's great when you're in your 20s, but when you're in your 50s, you know what you're good at and you know
Right.
what other people are good at. And it's better, I have found, when I'm staffing my teams, I don't want square pegs fitting in round holes. I want everybody to be a great fit for their
Hmm.
piece of the project. So the client, like I said, feels like they're getting tremendous value because everyone that's on the team is staffed to do exactly what they do best. And they're all going to work really hard and they're all really well trained. So the client's getting kind of a great team with great
Hmm.
chemistry and they're getting great results. And at the end of the day, how can you argue against that?
And certainly the role of marketing and certainly the types of skills has changed over the last 20 years. And the types of marketing that you're doing for your clients and the types of companies that are out there has really is different today than it was when you first started. I mean, between technology and social media and all of these other
Yeah,
aspects.
social media didn't exist when I
Right,
started. Facebook was just for college students. It was, online for, you had to have an
right.
address for a high school or a college to get in. I mean, we live in a completely different world now. And yeah, marketing, there's so many new tools and technologies. And we have people who are staying up on all that and can kind of be a Sherpa for our clients who maybe, don't want to staff up a full blown marketing
Right.
department, but they need access to certain people to get their jobs done. And so here we are.
It's great. I mean, I just think it's an amazing model. I thought it was an amazing model years ago, and now I just think it's just a perfect fit for where
Yeah,
we are today. And
the world's conspired to make me look like a
exactly. It's really been in your favor for sure. Well, I can't thank you enough, Paige, for being here today, for taking the time, for showcasing how you take a leap and how all the people that work with you are also taking a leap and the clients also. I mean, it's not just on your side as a company. I mean, the client is also saying, you know what, we're going to try something different. We're not going to be traditional. We're going to, or maybe this is traditional today, but it wasn't, at some point. And
absolutely
so everybody all around, it's a give and take, and everybody, it's a win-win for everybody. And if it isn't, then they're not going to use that kind of a methodology.
exactly
But if it is, then it's a great fit of a client and an organizational model that works, together. And it's fantastic. And I think it's also a great way to use the skills of the people um, who you're hiring. And, maybe it's a woman, maybe it's a man, whatever it is, but at a certain point in their life, as you said, they want to do what they love and that's what they want to focus on. They don't want to have to focus on the stuff that is just not interesting to them. So if they can be part of a team or part of an organization that allows them the opportunity to go out and do what they do best, well, it doesn't get better than that.
exactly
So
Well, thank
thank
you so
you.
much. It's been so fun
It's so fun.
reminiscing,
I know.
sharing. Oh,
It's great seeing you. It's great having the conversation. If people want to find you, is it mavensandmoguls.com?
yep, MavensandMoguls.com. Or you can
Perfect.
find me on LinkedIn, Paige Arnof-Fenn.
That is fantastic. And I will put that into the notes of the discussion as well. So thank you everybody for being here today, and I really appreciate your time and doing this. So thank you. Great
Thank
seeing
you
you.
so much.